lot subdivision, but that is a possibility. So it's one of the two, so I think this is the least impact is the idea, so what we're trying to do. Yep. So this is Alex.
Hi everyone, Alex Montesero. I'm the Vice President of Three Ponds Investments, and I've been actively involved in the development process. I've seen a lot of information online, so I just wanted to clarify before we opened up the public comment. These would be high-end age-in-place units in elevated buildings geared toward older residents who want to live in a very nice high-end unit in the town of Milton and enjoy the water views. These are not proposed to be low-income apartments. These are not proposed to be subsidized in any way. These are supposed to be high-end, very nice units for people who like the attraction of Milton and the ruralness of Milton, but want to live in a community with other people and age in place and be on the water. This development, I was here back in 2018. I was the one who came before you with the yield plan, and we've been working hard on it since then, trying to figure out the best use of this land. It's very unique. It's a large piece of property that has great conservation value, and we feel that doing this plan does the best service to the conservation value of this land and allows the residents to continue to enjoy this parcel as it is today with a minimum impact. So if anyone has any questions about what's proposed for the development side of things, I'm happy to answer those along the way as well.
Thank you, Alex.
So do you have any questions?
Well, first of all, I'd like to go over the application. We haven't accepted that yet.
Okay. that'd be
Okay, you
great.
got waivers, you got, want to request?
Well, these are potential waivers, yes, if this project is to go forward, that we'd see.
So we can't have a public hearing until we accept the application.
Mhm.
That's where we're at now.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Would you like to go over the waivers you're requesting?
Sure. So the first waiver, for Article 6, Section 6, permitted use. Land within the open space development subdivision may be used for the following purpose: single-family and duplex residential dwelling, accessory use, and buildings and minor home occupation is permitted within the zoning districts in which the parcel lies.
Reason being?
Because this would be multifamily.
Okay. Any questions or comments on that?
I thought you just said a few minutes ago that this was going to be catering towards older people.
Correct.
Is this going to be a 55 and older?
That, well,
No,
that'll
I'm
be.
sorry.
That's okay, that'll come a little later.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
What I wanted to tell you, Mr. Chairman, is that they really didn't make it clear that they were coming here for a preliminary design stage. So you really shouldn't go through the exercises of trying to accept a plan that's not complete at this point, because you will probably not accept it. But I believe that the statute gives you the leeway to have a public hearing if it really is a preliminary design stage. And so if you get the applicant to state that that's really the reason why we're here tonight,
Then we don't have to
then
go-
you could move forward with
Okay.
a public hearing without going through the exercise of accepting an application that isn't complete.
Yep.
All right.
Right, so this is a preliminary.
Thanks for telling us.
Yes, this is a preliminary. It's all preliminary. This is just to see about public input, your input, how, guidance. We're looking for a lot of guidance. We sat for the TRC meeting. We got guidance from each head of the departments. We applied those. So that's really where we're at. So these were possible waivers that we would be looking for if we were to
Okay.
go forward.
So we're probably not gonna accept the application tonight, okay? There's a lot there that I don't agree with, and I think a lot of the members will have a problem with. If you'd like some public input, we will open it up to the public, and you can pick and choose what you want, and you can answer for them. Is that fine?
So,
Is that good?
Yeah, we'd
Good?
also love planning board input
Yeah,
as
that's-
well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
yeah, that's what we're really looking for. Is really trying to get this so.
There's only 7 of us, and you've got a crowd.
Yes, we'd love to hear from the public as well.
Yeah, that's really
We
what-
want everyone's opinion.
Okay,
Yeah, that's really
Thank
why
you.
we're here. We're just. Yeah, this is all prelim. This
Yeah.
is because we couldn't go through a full design. It would. It's a lot of money to do that. So this is really just we. We want the input. Is the idea. So we can answer questions as they come forward. Give,
Anybody on the board? Larry?
Do you want questions and comments from the planning board first or from the general public first?
Let's do the planning board first, because we may cover the questions that some of them will have.
Larry Brown. Just generally, as you go forward, your understanding of the distinction between a concept approval and preliminary approval, and what obligations you believe you have to ridgeline protection. What remediation you believe the 2 parcels require at this time, irrespective of any development of one section of the 2 parcels or another.
Sorry.
And
I'm sorry.
sorry.
My dog's calling me.
I'm sorry.
So sorry. He was hungry.
you have no idea how terrifying it is to have such a superb argument up staged by the dog. We'll try it again. Thankfully, I wrote it down, and that is, I have been here since before day 1 of this project on its first day 1 imagining. And my question would be, what remediation you believe the 2 parcels require to their benefit, irregardless of where the buildings are and their location on that total parcel. And then the last question is, shall is a mandatory verb. Shall the activities of the 2 lots remain entirely within tax map lots 40 and 44? Okay, let me say that one again.
Yep.
Shall all activities of the residents remain within the boundaries of tax map lots 40 and 44?
And you mean activities? So that would not be the case because there's some.
I mean as much as a single marshmallow on a campfire someplace else than those 2 noted lots.
Like the lots that they have rights to the water? Is
I didn't say that.
it? Okay, I see that's it. And the other parcel that's in gray, I believe, is so these lots have rights to the water.
Mm-hmm.
Could you point that parcel just so everybody can see? So that piece there, and then,
Alright, I'm gonna show them and then I'll show you guys, alright?
thank
Alright,
We've got maps.
so this is
Yeah.
lot 149.
They don't.
We also have rights to lot, tax map 2331 and 2340. Say that again? So it's 23,149. We own that parcel. 2331. Okay, I'll clarify. We own the land of 23,149, but there are many people that have easements of use over this parcel.
Who pays taxes on that parcel? Do you?
I don't think we're gonna take public comments at this moment, but
Right.
I'm certainly happy to answer them when you go up to the podium. 2331 and 2340. As a side note, we also own this piece of land, 2344-3.
So they can see it, because they can't see that far back.
So for you all, 149,
Yep.
2331, 2340, and 2344 actually.
Larry?
Larry, sorry. Was that helpful?
It was informative.
Good.
Any other questions from the board?
We're gonna go through the questions one at a time, or?
They're asked, yeah.
All right, my question gets to the next waiver, the 35-foot waiver. And nowhere that I can find is what the height of these three buildings, the silhouette. I have the footprint, but no silhouette.
That's what I was looking for.
So you're looking for elevations?
Yes.
Okay.
Because especially the middle one, you're on a 500-foot contour,
Mm-hmm.
which is the highest contour I can find in the area.
Correct. We bring the site down just slightly, so we basically keep that elevation. We bring it down, I think, about 1.5 feet to make that more buildable. So, because of the contours and it's steep, when you bring out the building, you start pouring the foundations, you'll have areas and locations that will be greater than the 35 feet because it's the nature of what we're building against, these steep slopes on some of the areas. So what happens is when you get the foundation, you might go over the 35 feet. That's a situation. Another situation is we'll have on the top, the idea is to get these views too, that the roof area will be we're thinking about 42 feet, is that correct, Walter, about?
I met with the fire chief the other day and asked him if he had any concerns if it went as much as 50 feet, and he does not. So, based on the average grade around the building, I would anticipate, with the slope and everything, it could be up to 50 feet.
Larry?
That is the same question that I was asking in terms of ridge line protection, which I presume you were familiar with. That the ridge line is the natural line of the tree cover, and there's nothing to say what tree cover would be lost and what properties either to the west or to the east would be looking at compared to a natural tree cover, rather than the 60-inch upper end television set with the plasma as a new view shed, and 42 feet going over tree line, line of sight, tree destruction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything more from the board? Okay, I'm gonna open to the public. One question at a time, directed at the board, not the applicant. No outside noise. When you get up to speak, state your name. Thank you.
Okay, one question, oh boy. Well, I'll start with the subject we were on to begin with.
You wanna go up here,
The height
please?
of the building.
Right there's the podium.
Can you state your name, please?
Mike Dubois, I live at 199 Northeast Pond Road.
Thank you.
As I understand it, and I have a IRC code book right here, don't need it. The IRC code book states that 35 feet will be the maximum height of a building in a residential area. And I know Milton subscribes to the IRC. So my question is, with a 4-story building, if you've got an 8-foot ceiling, a 1-foot thick floor, that's 9 feet, that's 36 feet. You got another 2 feet for foundation, and with a 5-inch pitch on the roof, you got another 6, 7, 8 feet on the roof. You're way over, you're up in 42 feet land, when, never mind the tree line, the building is supposed to be 35 feet or less.
IRC covers 1 and 2 family, correct?
1 and 2 family,
IBC
And it-
covers multifamily.
Right, but we're not IBC here, we're in a residential area.
The structure is IBC controlled.
We're in a low-density residential area that we're trying to get an open space adjustment for, but it's still a low-density residential area, even if you have that open space.
But the building is being built to IBC standards.
It shouldn't be.
It should be, yes.
No, it shouldn't be, because
It's a
not
multifamily,
business.
sir. Fire protection, everything will come under the IBC. Next question.
Does it have to be a question? Oh,
Go.
my name is James Hill. I was up here before. I want to speak on what he asked a question about as far as the pieces in question. Lot 149, my family bought property with rights to Lot 149, which are the right to use and enjoy. It's not listed as a right-of-way. It's listed as the right to use and enjoy, not just pass over, but to use and enjoy, along with others that have that same right to use and enjoy. And at the time that that was sold, the real estate law says when those things happen that you need to consider what the buyer was conveying to the seller and what was understood. And this is a .09 piece of property here, .09 acres. We're not talking about a huge waterfront lot here. You start trying to fit 100 people there enjoying that piece of property, and it's not realistic, nor do I think it was what the buyer and seller intended when they sold that property. So that's just something to consider, and it goes along with what his question was with them using other lands. And I think that also applies to another lot there, but I'm not going to speak on that.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Denise Hudson, 320 Bowling Road. I have more than one. So the people on Bowling Road directly underneath it, as everyone knows, it's a private road. And during the meeting last year, I believe it was in March, Mr. Cheney's company said it was an impassable. It was in disrepair. Pretty much true, but we live there. It just cannot support any traffic whatsoever. It just can't. And we personally, neighbors help neighbors and fix the road. There's no association. And it can't support it, that's one. It just can't support any traffic, any people looking when they wanna buy. We don't want them on our road. We don't wanna repair the road after they use it. Two, this year was very bad for the water coming down the hill. I'm not sure why, but it was a terrible year. We had some people lose walls. Other people had to put drains in front of their house. We're not sure when you start changing the top of that hill, what it's gonna do as far as the water coming down the hill to our properties. And I think that's a big concern. So a couple of concerns. Mr. Cheney can build this property in 3 years, we could have water problems. That's not right. I mean, how do we protect ourselves from that? Two, how do we stop these people from coming down our road? Four, should we be responsible? Three, should we be responsible to repair our little road that anyone who's been on it knows is in tough shape to support more traffic? We can't. We just can't do it. So I just want to go on record as saying that I think I speak for a lot of people on Bowling Road, on the private part. We can't support it.
Thank you. Sir?
My name's Albert Rodriguez, and I live at 204 Northeast Pond Road. And it looks like you want to build a road right by my property line. That's wetlands, from what I was told when I first bought the house. When you guys came and, or let somebody come in and clear out all those trees, I had my driveway washed away that first year. Came here and told you about it, wanted to know why you let them cut all those trees down. And it, like I said, washed my driveway away. You said, go after the guy that cut the trees down. Now that you built the houses along Northeast Pond Road, you let someone go in there and start filling in that wetland right by my house. Now, I used to have a pond in my yard. I don't have a pond anymore. It's all dirt. My driveway's washed away again. I just don't think it's right for you guys to start tearing up the land up there and just destroying everything.
Well, sir, we do not allow people to do those types of things.
Well, you did.
We don't control timber cuts. People feel it's not the responsibility of the planning board.
Well, when I came here and told you about them filling in my wetland,
The planning board?
I came here to the office and they told me to go down to the dump down there and talk to somebody down there, and they'll do something about it.
This is
You
the
aware-
planning
Are you
board.
aware that people were filling in that land?
No.
Well, they did. And that's exactly where they wanna put that road. So that was wetland and it still is, and it's got a nice big path of water going through and screwing up my driveway every time. That's wetland.
Wait, we don't need applause. Any more questions?
Questions or comments?
Yes.
I'm Shannon Foy, 318 Golden Road. I think I'm lot 148, which would be directly in front of this whole thing that's being built. My late husband and I just recently invested a lot of money in a new home. And we went to great lengths, the builder went to great lengths to make sure that our basement was dry. When this land was originally cleared, maybe between 10 and 15 years ago, our lot became very wet. And it hadn't been in the past. I've been at this location my whole life. Once that land was cleared, it turned my lot into a swampy, wet lot. And in order to build the home that we've built, the builder and site guy went through a lot of trouble to make sure that this basement would be dry. Now, the home has only been there for a little over a year. It's only been through one winter and one spring thaw. So I still don't have any idea if it did remain dry through this thaw. I believe with these buildings and a whole bunch of paving going on up there, that where is the water going to go? Where is this runoff going? And is it going into my new basement? Will it be going into my new septic system, which we spent a lot of money on because we didn't have enough space for a traditional septic system and had to spend extra money for a hybrid septic system because we didn't have enough space for a leach field. Will it be going into our wells? I think that we need to, the planning board, you say it's not the tearing down of trees isn't part of what the planning board does, is that correct?
On this project, it would be, but when that was cut the last time, that was a timber cut issued by the state. They're the ones that said, go ahead and cut, we can't stop logging.
And then who shut it down?
Who did shut that down, Bruce? That's when the state must have come in, Diamond Heart. Yeah.
So there was a cease and desist order put on because they cut down too many trees.
Mhm.
They cleared more than they were supposed to.
And left.
Pardon?
And they left.
Well, did they leave?
Yeah, it's completely new owners now.
Okay, well, I think that we need to be careful that that doesn't happen again.
That
And
will
I
be-
think that we need to be careful about where this water runoff is going to go.
That would be when we do, if and when this project continues, there'll be a drainage plan put in, filtration fields and everything else will all be addressed at that time. This is just a preliminary hearing, we have got none of that. That all will come to us if they continue with it. It will show where the water runoff, where it's gonna be filtered, probably retention ponds, and the question about wetland crossing, and most likely we'll have to go to the state to get a wetland crossing to put that driveway in.
Okay?
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Sir?
Rich Arnold, 397 Bowling Road. I have lot 23, map 23, lot 38, directly across that triangle-shaped access that they have shown that access is on my deed and the next 5 lots up. One of the lots which they purchased to put their proposed access road through the wetlands next to Albert's house, which is the next one up Northeast Pond Road from my house. All of our deeds have access to that. Do they plan on expanding the access of that one lot to that entire development? I mean, don't they have to have everybody that already has deeded access to that to give them permission to expand it?
With coming off of Northeast Pond Road?
I live on the first house on the right on Bolin Road, where that sharp corner is and that triangle shaped access that they've got grayed out.
Yeah?
My house is directly across the street from that access. That access is just a little narrow pathway next to the big house that's across from me. And when you get down to the water, it's about 15 feet wide and it's all muck and silt. And most of that came from when they cleared that land before. And the first year I bought my house, I had a river of water running out my basement. And the previous owner said, oh, we never had that problem before. I foresee that same kind of thing happening all over again. If they go in and cut all the trees that suck up the water, it's all ledge up there. It's big giant slopes. And in your own plan of land use, it says that you don't want building on steep slopes. You want to protect the rural character of the neighborhood. These 3 buildings will do none of that. It'll totally go against what the town wants. I'm going to read you just a couple of paragraphs on my thoughts, because I have a lot of questions, but you only allow one at a time. So I just have 2 paragraphs I'd like to read. The town wants in its master plan to promote the rural character that respects the landscape and the existing built environment. That includes all of our houses. This proposal does neither of those things. It threatens to change the rural character of the landscape of this quiet lakeside neighborhood that we love and moved here to begin with. Please take into careful consideration the impact to the lake, the environment, the longtime residents of this peaceful neighborhood, and say no to this 3-unit, 4-story, out-of-place cluster housing that is a potential disaster for the residents, the private road, burden to the town, resources, and the lake we all love.
Thank you.
My name is Lynn Mercier, and I live at 201 Northeast Pond Road. I've been a resident here in the town of Milton for 40 years. I have lived at that address for 40 years. I'd like to follow up on a question that you had asked. I don't think we ever got an answer to. But one of my questions is this a 62 or older condominium? I don't think we ever got an answer to that
That hasn't been
question.
determined yet.
Okay. Because in here, in this application, it states housing for the elderly and lower income residents. Lower income also means in many cases no income, and it means Section 8 housing. Section 8 housing is guaranteed to the landlords. I want to talk about, as my neighbors are going to talk about the impact on our street, I want to talk about the impact to this town, this community. If you take 36 apartment buildings and you multiply that by potential kids going into our school system, that would be 72 students if each couple had 2 children. The current budget for our school is $10 million. That's the budget as of today. This town is not ready, and nor can our school systems actually take 72 or more students. The problem with elderly housing, because you're trying to market people in my age bracket, and the problem with that is coming to Milton, We're 25 minutes away from the nearest hospital, 20 minutes from a grocery store or a pharmacy. We have no public transportation in this town. What does this town offer for community services for senior citizens? So what's going to happen is he's not going to be able to sell or rent these to elderly people. Then he's gonna come here and he's gonna want low-income housing. Low-income housing also brings drug sales. I'm gonna be very blunt here. You're gonna have to double your police force. You're gonna have domestic disputes. And that area of town cannot take 144 people. So I would like the planning board to really consider the impact that this has not only on the residents of that street, Northeast Pond Road, Bolin Road, but the residents of this community. And I ask you, please do not approve this subdivision.
Any more questions or comments? You've already had a shot. I'll get back to you afterwards.
Apparently not.
Yeah, Tom Lamb, 349 Bolin Road. My concern is a safety concern in terms of traffic. Where I see, where I see the road coming out to Northeast Pond Road, I don't know what the pitch or the grade of the road at that point is. If there's Northeast Pond Road is a fairly steep grade. If that's a relatively flat section, it may be okay if it's not near a steep section, but cars will not be able to see coming up over the hill, the cars exiting that, especially if you have that many units in there, you can have a lot of traffic coming out of there. Cars need to be able to see that, and if it's also on a steep grade, they're gonna have to be accelerating up that it's gonna be a problem. Just getting out onto Northeast Pond Road, and that needs to be considered when looking at what they plan to do.
That'll come with a driveway permit. That'll be checked by the highway department for site distance, et cetera.
Okay. The other concern I have, of course, is there are several camps and houses that are on where the road goes between the house and the lake, which means there's a lot of foot traffic between houses and the lake. And cars going through there to get more traffic, like someone said, that road won't take it. Well, I think it's a safety problem as well. With cars coming through there with a lot of pedestrians, every once in a while you get a hothead going through there real quick, and it creates a hazard. And if you have more people living there, you're gonna have more of that. So that's a concern as well.
Thank you.
Very good.
You spoke already.
I spoke?
I was gonna ask you.
When did I speak?
Which one is it? You asked him which question you want, so either one of you get up, so I don't care.
Get up, the guy's right. I don't know who he thinks he is.
I'm gonna follow up with the last gentleman's question. My wife and I have the unfortunate situation that our place is located directly across from the entry to this new subdivision, directly across. So if that lot had been developed as one lot, one house, we'd see 1 or 2 cars. Now we're gonna see, it says there's parking for 110 spots. So, but 30, yeah, it says they're gonna have parking for 110 spots in the application. But even if there's only 36 to 72, that doubles the amount of traffic from where that driveway is coming up through from Bolin Road and Northeast Pond Road along Branch River. So it actually doubles the amount of cars coming through there at a minimum. So my thought with that is the basic thing we're talking about here, is it going to upset the rural character of our area? And yes, it will, because of the increased traffic. The other problem with that traffic is, no, it's not on a hill there, but your sight line to a sharp corner is only 250 feet. about 3 seconds at 30 miles an hour. The sight line going up the hill is only 250 feet. That's not including the snowbanks in the winter that we have that run from 4 to 6, 7 feet. So the sight lines will be much shorter at that point. So it's gonna be a safety hazard there, and it's also gonna be a problem for me getting out of my driveway with all those people leaving in the morning, coming back in the afternoon. So what are you gonna do to mitigate that?
Thank you. Steve?
Steve Panish, Conservation Commission, and I live on Tenerife Road. There are a lot of things to say here. First of all, we don't have a plan in front of us, so I can't comment on the engineering difficulties of the site, which are going to be considerable. And I think, knowing Walter Cheney, that he understands and appreciates that. Before I moved to Milton in 1999, I lived in the seacoast. I've been active in conservation affairs for far longer than I've lived in Milton. And Walter Cheney was one of the very few developers that I know of that I would trust to do an ecologically sensitive development. If you have a problem, and we have heard many valid concerns here, you can talk to Walter Cheney about those issues, and he will understand and appreciate them. I'm not generally considered the most development-friendly person in town, but I actually am in favor of quality development that will help the town. Now, there are several possible things that could happen on this site. From a conservation point of view, the most optimal outcome would be that this land was entirely put into conservation status. The worst
Just let him finish, please.
Sorry?
No.
That will take money. The worst outcome would be a standard development as is exemplified by the yield plan, which actually done by the Cheney Corporation would be a lot better than it would be if it was done by other companies. But it's still not a good outcome at all, and not one that the Conservation Commission would welcome. The last possibility is what is being proposed here, which is to take, essentially, divide the overall site into two pieces, put a dense development in one of those pieces and do it in the most ecologically friendly way that is possible, and put the other into a conservation outcome. Now, this town's conservation subdivisions do not have a good history. They have not been well done, and there's a number of reasons for that. First of all, the concept of conservation subdivisions is new. The town didn't really know how to do them, how to regulate them, and they've been a problem, which I might add the Conservation Commission has spent a lot of money repairing in part. So for a conservation subdivision to work, in this case, what we would seek would be that the developer would take the conservation part of the development and would donate it to the town. That would yield a nice tax benefit for the developer, so there's a plus there. And of course, the town then has control over that property, so things like paths and public use would be regulated in a way that we saw fit. Secondly, in order to preserve that, there should be a conservation easement placed on that conservation land. Now, it is the current policy of the Conservation Commission that the town not hold conservation easements. So in this case, what would happen would be that the town would own the property, but a local land trust, of which there are several in the area, but probably the one that we'd go with would be Moose Mountains Regional Greenways, because they're the most local. They would hold the easement. They are professionals. They would take care of monitoring it in perpetuity, which is the big expense. And we would ask that all the expenses that go into putting conservation easement on that property be covered by the developer, which averaged out over these units, which are, as described, going to be high-end units, would not be a high price per unit. In addition, this kind of, there's one of the significant expenses in doing a conservation easement is the need for a survey, but in this case, the survey would already been done, so that expense is gone. There's significant legal expenses in the production of an easement. We have easement documents that we've been putting on other properties, so we could save a certain amount of legal expense there. So that's good. I shouldn't say we, I should say Moose Mountains Regional Greenways. The biggest remaining expense is that there needs to be, because there needs to be monitoring in perpetuity, there needs to be money put into a pot which pays for that. The town, one of the reasons that the town does not, that the CC, the Conservation Commission, does not want to hold easements is because the town, as a municipal body, a state-regulated municipal body, cannot invest the monies that it has in a way that actually generates money. It can generate a very small amount of money, but basically it can't do any reasonable investing. A land trust doesn't have that limitation. So they can take the money that's given to them to monitor the easement, they can put it into a fund where it actually earns money, it's managed, and then they can afford in perpetuity to pay for that. The town really can't do that. It needs a yearly input of money in order to pay for that work. And that's one of the problems that the Conservation Commission has. That's why the Conservation Commission needs a budget which will be like a revolving fund which goes on forever because it has to pay those expenses forever. And I should talk to the planning board sometime about these issues because you're mostly new and need to be educated. But all this is possible. Now in terms of the engineering, I can't speak to it. It's not ready yet. But I can say that if I had to trust a developer with doing something on this piece of land, which I'd rather not have, but if I had to, Walter Cheney is one that I would want to have do it. So approach it with an open mind, keep in mind what the alternatives are, and hopefully we can have an outcome that everyone can live with relatively happily forever after. So again, if you have concerns, go to Walter, go to me, go to the planning board.
Are you representing Walter, or are you
No.
representing the town?
Yeah, who's representing?
I'm representing the Conservation Commission, and we although we haven't seen a final plan here, we think that, given that something's gonna happen on this property, unless it's gonna be that somebody buys the property for conservation, this is a better plan than the yield plan.
So is it appropriate to power the developer?
Sir, direct the questions to us. We're not gonna argue back and forth.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay.
At any rate, that's why the Conservation Commission agreed that we would approve what we knew of this project at the time.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Melissa Brown. I live on Willie Road and the Mills, but I also, with my wife, own property on Northeast Pond Road. We have a very viable business at the top of Northeast Pond, Mackenzie's Farm, and especially this time of the year, it's a parking lot up there. We all put up with it because it's a very viable business and they're very conservative and very considerate of the neighbors. You're asking us to have over 70 cars come down that road on a given day when we already have a parking lot. I think you need to seriously consider the impact at the top of Northeast Pond Road. Thank you.
Stand back. Mr. Rodriguez, I guess, yeah, then we'll.
Seeing that you just mentioned that, what are you gonna do with the school bus when you got, no school bus goes down there? We fought long and hard for a school bus to pick up our kids all the way down the bottom of the road. What are you gonna, all these kids coming up and down the street with no sidewalk, big gullies, snowing, ice, all these kids can't make it to school. it's gonna be pretty hard. What you should think about is keeping that land, leave it the way it is for nature.
Sorry to keep coming up here, but I just have many questions. But my next one is, when they originally proposed the plan, they talked about view of the lake. Well, in order to get that view of the lake, even on the hill where they are, which is very steep, it goes against the town's proposed building use, and it even mentioned it right in their proposal about steep slopes. In order to get that view, they would have to cut down all the trees in front of it. If they do that, it's gonna destroy our road and make it completely impassable, and it's gonna destroy the basements and foundations. Not to mention all the siltation that's gonna go into the lake, which is a problem from the last time they cut all the trees. So I don't foresee anything about this presentation being copacetic with the neighborhood, the environment. You know, I understand everybody wanna be able to see the lake, but to put this 4-story building in there, and all the people on the lake are gonna have to look at that too. They're gonna go, what the heck is that doing up there on the hillside? It has nothing, you know, it's all camps, houses. There's like 44 on Northeast Pond Road and up Bolin Road. There's 44 buildings. Most of those are summertime only. There's only 36 units on all of Bolin Road that are year-round. If you put this in, it's gonna double that whole area with year-round residents. And it just, everything about it is just wrong for that area, totally wrong. There isn't another 4-story building in the entire town. Why would we wanna put one on a hillside so we gotta look at it from the lake? Every time we go out to fish or water ski or jet ski or whatever, we got enough traffic out there now, but it's just gonna be an eyesore. It's wrong, wrong, wrong for that area.
Any new questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Bill Mark Rossi, I live at 186 Northeast Pond Road. First of all, it seems to be unclear if they're renting these or if they're gonna be selling these units. And if so, you say it's gonna be high-end, but affordable for the elderly. That doesn't make sense.
High-end.
So we're going Section 8 housing.
Really quick, if they're gonna have all this pavement in the wintertime, I'm gonna assume that they're gonna plow and sand and salt. And a major concern of mine is, since that's uphill from the lake, is how much sand and salt and all that, the stuff from the road is gonna end up in the lake.
Yeah.
My name's Laura Tilton, and I own property at 162 Northeast Pond Road. And first I want to say I'm extremely nervous, not very familiar with this process. And I want to apologize to the residents here because I was one of the first houses put in by the last developer. And I have a little story to tell. We bought the house, and it was supposed to be a nice little residential neighborhood. We were supposed to have golf cart trails. We were supposed to have beach access. What we ended up with was a nightmare. Our basement is constantly flooded. I lost a vehicle because of the water coming down the hill into my yard. We came to the town when the developer was putting our houses in. He buried all the trash. He burned all the trash. He had vehicles that shouldn't have been operating anywhere on the property. He did whatever he wanted. We complained to several people at the town. Nothing was ever done. Nobody paid attention to what he was doing, and no one was held responsible. I don't know if that was my fault because I didn't know the right people to go to, but before you consider this, I think you need to have a plan in place for what you can do when things start to go wrong. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Tracy, 345 Goland. I am the house directly in front of that large orange box, the biggest orange box. I wanted to be supportive to most of the comments already said because I certainly mirror those concerns. My family's third generation in this house, so I've been in that house for 50 years, and my grandparents before me. I'm very familiar with the road. It is a class 6 road, so I certainly support that the heavier traffic, the more challenging it's going to be. My other neighbor, Tom, and I are right on the corner, so we only have one car length section if someone's flying around the corner. We have a one car length notice around that blind corner. When you have small children, and I have nieces and nephews, they're very small, that's a concern. So when we have one car flying around the road, well, we know that we're pretty safe that one isn't right behind it. But we're certainly concerned if that traffic increases. And although the limitation is supposed to be for their right of way, my neighbor Tom and I can say that people are always looking for places that they can put their kayaks in and their boats without other landowner permission. And we both have had heavy traffic, including motorized boats digging up where I live. I was there during the construction before, and where I lost 2 very large boulders and a giant tree that was in my driveway because, well, someone in construction thought it'd be in their way, which destroyed my driveway, which is probably 8 feet lower than it was when I was a child. When the fire occurred at the top of the hill, and the fire department did come, so I was curious to why they didn't think it was a concern. All of the runoff went right down my driveway and behind my house and underneath my kind of, not really a root cellar, it's dirt on sonotubes, and into the lake. So I was there because I couldn't get out because there was 8 fire trucks on both sides of the house. So I watched several hours of runoff going into the lake. And the lake already has some environmental concerns. So we certainly don't want to add to that. I have my well right next to the lake, and I don't want to add any additional silt or other contaminants. So I certainly support those comments made by my neighbors. My little teeny camp, and there's nothing in it, has been broken into 3 times. I don't have anything to take, but, you know, they made a mess. And to increase the neighborhood with a concern that it could be Section 8, because there seems to be a conflict offering high-end housing to the majority of people that could be on fixed income. Because as the retirement age for some can be as early as 62, that's a fixed income age where high-end housing is really conflict. So I certainly have some concerns, and I certainly support with the salt and the sand coming down the hill because I saw it with the fire trucks. So I mirror everyone's concerns, and I hope that those are taken into consideration. As far as speaking with Walter Cheney, I happened to be at the house when he was driving up and down to let everyone know that we're going to be doing this. And I said, well, geez, I don't know if I'm super happy about that. And I said it just like that because I don't think I'm a mean person. He said, well, we're going to do it either way. So I hope you get on board soon. And I was being friendly. So I understand that you said I could reach out to Walter Cheney, but he seemed very adamant it was going to happen regardless. So I didn't know about the March 2018 hearing until I heard everyone talking about it today. I didn't see a notice, so my apologies, I must have missed it. But I just hope that everyone's concerns are taken into consideration because they are valid. And not only could it be harmful, but it just would be a disgrace to lose all of that natural tree line that's been there for a really long time. Thank you.
Again.
I downloaded your subdivision regulations from the town of Milton website, and in just a half an hour at lunchtime today, going through it, I found several areas of concern, and I'll cite the specific sections. The first one is 7.6, paragraph D. And it reads, as soon as I get there. Notice to the general public shall be given by one publication in a local newspaper of general circulation at least 10 days prior to the public hearing or public meeting. Was this done for this meeting or the one in March?
The one in March is not a public hearing.
Okay, well, was it done for this meeting?
Yes, it was.
It was put in the paper?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the next section, section E. The applicant shall erect a sign along each principal frontage of the lot or project site as determined by the land use office, providing notice of the impending action. Such sign shall be a design, size, and color approved by the land use office in order to maximize visibility of the sign and to call attention to its purpose. At a minimum, the sign shall include the applicant's name, the project type, the project location, the time, date, and location of the public hearing on such actions, and instructions for contacting the land use office for further information on the action. Any sign required by this section shall be erected at least 10 days prior to the hearing on such matter and shall be kept in good repair by the applicant as determined by the land use office until the date and time of the last hearing notified by the sign. The lack of proper signage shall not be deemed to be insufficient notice of hearing unless the board finds, based on a recommendation by the land use office, that the applicant has not made a good faith effort to keep the required signs in good repair, which, in case the board may at its discretion continue the hearing at a later meeting to permit time for additional notice by such reasonable means as the board may specify. I submit that there was a lot of things, those two things, one was done, the other was not. And so I think that this shouldn't go any further.
This is a preliminary hearing.
Right.
It's talked about in the statute. It doesn't require a signage yet.
We're not even gonna discuss.
Well,
This is a preliminary hearing, not a public hearing.
Let me finish. You have not accepted the application as complete yet, so that you could go to a final public hearing. At that time, that's when the applicant has to put the sign up, not now.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. I have another section. 7.7, paragraph F, right of way.
Excuse me.
Yes.
This application is coming in under Article 6 of the zoning ordinance entitled Open Space Developments, not the subdivision regulations.
That's right.
Then why did they include all the house plans?
I've got no house plan.
It's in here.
Well,
So if you
the
go, if you go
proposed
online to
buildings,
the
why are
local
they talking
zoning
about
ordinance,
that if the main
you go to page
proposal is for
20,
the open
you
space?
can read all about the open space development subdivision regulation. Page 20, Milton zoning ordinance, online.
Okay, I have that too, I'll have to. My point is, we just haven't had enough time to go through all of this stuff. You know, they sent out the notice, they mailed it on a Friday. Most people, a lot of the residents or abutters aren't here this time of year. It's after Labor Day, a lot of them are seasonal. So they're not gonna get their notice in time to really have time to study it. The guy put the sticker on my front door. I didn't realize until after 12:30 on Saturday that was there. I got it on Monday. Came directly here to talk to her and got the copy of the plans. And then I had to go on the website and get all the other regulations.
Well, so you'll have plenty ample time, because we're not gonna accept the application tonight.
Okay.
So we will be having a public hearing if this continues to go on,
Okay.
okay?
All right.
Yes.
Barbara Conacher, I live on Northeast Pond Road. First of all, this is my first planning board meeting I've come to. We come up, we have to introduce ourselves, but unfortunately, I don't know who any of you are. And I don't know who this gentleman is over here speaking. I just think that's unfair. The other thing was, someone spoke of people that don't own the property on the lake, driving up and down the roads, looking for places to put their little boats in and whatever else. If they wanted to use the lake, they should have bought property on the lake. I constantly am watching my neighbor's property and telling people it's private property, they can't be launching their boats out of there. I think it's gonna get worse if you let these people live where they are talking about. And I hope you get more police department personnel if you do, because there's gonna be a lot of issues of them trying to get to the lake.
Thank you.
And a full-time fire department.
Right.
An ambulance.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. Steve Palmisano, 340 Bowling Road. Can I ask the planning board to ask the developer what the length of that road is, please?
Sure.
Proposed road?
The driveway length?
Yes.
2,500 feet?
2,500 feet. Can I ask the planning board to ask the developer what they are selling the waterfront access lots as? How are they gonna be presenting that to prospective buyers?
But I am getting, that's nothing to do with us. What he's proposed is not a waterfront property.
He's
Water
pointed out
access.
2 waterfront lots as part of the development.
You
You're
have
saying
you have any
it's
intention of selling those, Walter?
Okay.
That'll be, just as you all have a common use right-of-way, or many of you have, it will be a common use right-of-way for these residents, irregardless of what's done. If it's this, or if it's this, there will be the same amount of residents, and they will all share that common use right-of-way, which is our right, to get them.
Right, so you're gonna be selling those properties. They will be I'm gonna address you because you've been
Right.
clear about that.
Yep.
They will be selling these properties with common access to the lake off of these 2 lots, is what I'm understanding.
Yes, that's what I understand.
How will they access those lots?
Sorry, I think at the moment, and I am looking at Walter to confirm, just this lot. I don't think we're proposing shared access.
The property goes to the lake. This is, we own 100 feet or whatever, I'll say approximately 100 feet on the lake here. It's part of the 48 acres. So they have direct access to the lake on that property.
And how would?
In addition to that, the company owns 2 other lots that other people have access to the lake on.
The company shares or owns?
Pardon?
It shares or owns?
We own it, and it's shared by others.
Okay. So, my question to the board would be, if all of these people at the top of the hill, and it should be renamed Castle on the Hill at this point, from what it's gonna look like on the road, want access to the water through these lots, they're gonna walk 2,500 feet and then down Northeast Pond and then down Bowling to get access to this water. And that's what they're selling. They're selling water view and they're gonna sell water access as well. People aren't gonna walk that distance. We're gonna have cars parked on these roads with people who wanna go down and use the lake as part of their right to use the lake via their purchase of that property. That road will not support any on-street parking at all. And certainly the residents who have spaces aren't gonna be in any shape to take people's cars in their driveways. So that's a consideration that you guys should really be keen on, because that's what they're gonna be selling. Water view, and that's why they're clustering as well, because otherwise only one or two properties are gonna have the potential of one, depending on what they do with the trees up there. And I got one comment regarding the open space. I bought into an open space community in Massachusetts with promises of conservation, paths, benches, birds chirping. Never happened. What it was is a way for the developer to offload a tax burden, and basically we were left with a swamp as part of that development. I'm not saying that that's gonna be the case here. I don't know the history, I don't know the record of Conservation Committee here. Sounds like they're kinda new to the game from what he said, but I don't see that as being a big selling point for these type of developments as a byproduct. It's never really the case. It's always benefits the developer more so than it benefits the individuals in the area or the town, in my opinion. So, that's all.
Hi, my name is Lauren DeVallo at 296 Bowling Road, 50 years. My question is, does he already have approval for the prior project he was doing with the 18 or however many units that was? Does he already have pre-approval for another project and then decided afterwards to come in and do the 3 units? So he has no approval on anything as of yet on the site?
Right.
Because I just heard him mentioning that originally they were gonna do 18 townhouses or something to that effect.
That was
But
one-
nothing has been approved.
Nothing's been approved.
Thank you very much.
Last one. Yeah.
For everybody or just him?
Just him. I'm gonna close this in about 10 minutes. Yeah. My name's Brian. My name's Brian, not Hitler, okay?
I didn't.
Okay?
It wasn't me.
Come on. Someone just made that comment.
It wasn't me.
I didn't say that.
Can we introduce ourselves? Can we introduce ourselves to you guys?
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, nobody did.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I would just like to ask, have any of you people walked this property and seen anything firsthand, like all
We
the
haven't
residents have?
got that far to where we have to take a site walk. We have not yet.
Well, maybe you should before you decide whether or not.
We
it
will
should go
before we
any further.
decide anything more.
But I mean, that access that he's talking about where he owns the property all the way to the water,
Mm-hmm.
that's a steep embankment that's 3 feet from the edge of the road.
Yep.
And there's no way you can have access to it. I mean, it's all trees. It's right next to my good friend Joe Stanley and Kathy Stanley's house, which I fish there all the time. And there's trees overlooking the water, and it's large rocks and a gravel banking, and there's no way anybody's gonna be able to access that from the road. It's like the road, I'm standing on the edge of the road and I look and there's the water right there, 12 feet down and 3 feet from the edge of the road. And it's not good for an access site. You know, it's right on the private road. Now, if they own that property, then are they gonna help maintain the road when everything washes out? I mean, there's just so many things about this that really shouldn't go any further.
Yes.
Marie Hill, my mom, 88-year-old Selena Hill, owns 292 Bowling.
Yep.
She also owns the 3-acre piece that we've kept nice, wooded, real conservation, no clear cutting of trees. We have walked up there. We've had this in our family since 1965. My dad and my mom have opened their home to countless people. The first night they bought their place, their neighbors stayed there. My parents didn't even stay there. This property it's heaven on earth. We do see and we do love all the beauties of the lake, the eagles, the loons. It's phenomenal, and I wish you all had that opportunity to live at a place like that. It's beautiful. My mom and Alexander have both been assigned tax on lot 149. I would like to know what deed, book and page number shows that ownership has been transferred to this developer. Thank you.
Hi, John Albergini, I'm on Northeast Pond Road, and I don't want to take up the time, but I echo all the concerns of everybody here tonight, especially the traffic. Where I'm around the corner on the dirt road portion, when I come around that corner and come up right about where this proposed access road would be, it's hard enough for me to come up and down that street as it is without worrying about, so many cars coming in and out. But more importantly, what I'm concerned about is the access to the lake. There's been a lot of that talk here, and I know that you'll probably get into that more in detail if you do accept this application. But if I understand this correctly, the green portion of that, which on my map is green, I guess it's whatever that is over there, that's gonna be their portion, their 5-something acres. The rest of it's supposed to go to the town. But if all that is associated with the town, how are they gonna be able to grant access to the pond from there? Wouldn't that be under the town's control? And if it's not, if I don't see it correctly, but if it's not, then I echo all the concerns of the people here to say, how are people in these 3 buildings gonna be getting down there to the lake? It seems to me that it'll be an imposition on the people that are on the lake right now. And one last thing, I've heard a lot of concerns about, a lot of questions about whether this is going to be a age appropriate or aged in or whatever that terminology is, or if it's, I think I heard Section 8 or low income. I would recommend to this board that if you do elect to go forward, that right off the start, that you would put an age limit on this, so that the townspeople here or the neighbors wouldn't have to have that concern. I think it's probably within your purview to do that, just say right off the bat that nobody there can be under whatever age you decide is appropriate. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I get your name again? I'm sorry. I missed it.
John Albergini. Rhymes with Lamborghini. I wish.
James Hilligan, I just want to invite you all, including the developer there, I invite you all to walk down along Bolin Road from the point of Northeast Pond Road, where it is maintained by the people that live there right now, and so that you can get a good feel and imagine what this would look like down the years if this were to be developed. And also go down to lot 149 and see the size of that property. It's 0.09 acres, so it's not huge. Considering, as the person said before me, that if they have to drive down or walk, it's a long walk if they walk. If they drive down, there's no room on that road, like they said, for parking. So I think it begs for you to look at it personally, go down there, not just look on a map, but for you to all take a walk. And I'd be more than happy to show you, if you don't exactly know where it is, and take you down there and explain where 149 is and what we're talking about, as that's the lot that my mom has deeded right to enjoy, use and enjoy, and then consider whether it would be able to be enjoyed with hundreds of other people, or potentially hundreds of other people. I just think that's an important thing if you're going to consider a development like this with that access to all the implications that could happen, and look at the sides of the road to see the steepness and ask yourself where is all the runoff gonna go, especially the spring runoff, when you have piles of snow piled up, and it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, that the plan is to put the snow on the lake side of the buildings. So, that means it's only got one direction to go, and it's not gonna go down the road, it's gonna go down the embankment right towards the water. So, that's all. Thanks.
Yes, sir. This will be the last of the public comment.
Hello, my name's Dan Bisson, 344 Bowling Road, and we're all, I believe, lot 52. If you look at the big orange building, that Connor has a right of way of 25 feet. Within 5 feet is the back of property. From that area down from the building to my property is at least 40 to 50 feet grade difference. And then you put a 40, 50 foot building, we are definitely gonna see it. And that's also inclusive of my two neighbors who also spoke, all the way down Bowling. And just a concern I have is not having that atmosphere I have now behind the property. We got deer and turkey walking through, we got all kinds of wildlife in there. I'm just concerned that we're gonna lose all that being 30 feet away from a development, and it's just a concern. I know Mr. Cheney's gonna follow the rules, he's developed all over the state, but it's really depending on you folks, the planning board, to really make sure everything gets done appropriately. I noticed on the application of payment, it states about DES, Department of Environmental Services is NA, not applicable, because it's over 5 acres. Well, the development is 5.4 acres. Very appropriate, but I hope you would provide that they do follow Department of Environmental Services. I think it's to all our benefit to basically be wards of our neighbors and our lands around us, and also the views. Fine, it's a developer, they're gonna wind up taking part of that as what they're doing, but do it selectively and carefully so we can all enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Your comments will help us make decisions, it will help the developer make decisions. That was the intent of what they wanted for this meeting. At this time, I'm gonna take about a 3-minute recess, just to stretch our legs, and we'll come back and finish up with the developer.
Would you all introduce yourselves to us?
Yeah.
Pardon?
Would you all introduce yourselves to us?
Sure, go for it, Larry.
Larry Brown, and for the earlier record, I was there when the property had not yet been touched, when brooks ran through the base of giant hemlocks.
Hi, Larry.
So if you couldn't stop them then, how are you gonna stop them now?
Thank you, Larry.
Next,
Lynette
Go on,
McDougal.
Just go right.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Lynette McDougal.
Hi, Lynette.
I don't know.
Bob Graham, I live on Bowling Road.
Hi, Bob.
Brian Boyers.
Pete Hayward. Joe Michaud. Matt Morrow. Joe Michaud.
Hi, Joe. We won't remember, but thank you. And over here?
Bruce Woodruff, town planner.
Hi, Bruce.
Ashley Morrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm just gonna take a couple minute recess just to,
I didn't know whether you wanted to, obviously, there's no other action to take place tonight other than for the preliminary review. However, the board could set a public meeting date for a site walk if it so chooses.
okay. You wanna do that before we take
Yeah,
a break?
let's do that.
You guys can feel free to park in my driveway when you walk down there. It'll be half the distance of that road.
There is a path on the plan.
Let them clear out.
Just want to let you know that it wasn't me. If you heard something, it wasn't me. I'm like John, by the way. I've actually been the chairman of a board before, similar like this, in the town I used to live in, so I understand what you're doing.
22 years.
Keep it up. Good job.
All right.
By the time. Do you want us to close out, or are we all good? Do you want to reconvene?
Let's just go take a break.
Okay.
We want to set up a date for a public hearing to continue this.
Okay.
And we also like to set up a date.
Didn't want to leave if you needed me to get back up and talk to everybody.
And kids. He's right up.
I love the hair.
It's growing out.
I like it.
How are you doing, honey?
Good.
Give me a hug.
Been a while.
I know. He's in the hospital. He's
No, I'll be picking them up by 9 o'clock.
all right. You know, we do need nameplates over here so people know that I have to put comments.
It'd be nice to know,
No,
especially
you're
when
right.
you're getting comments from the corner. It's like, who is that?
No, I agree. I agree. 100%.
And I didn't hear anybody call him yet. I didn't hear anybody call him yet.
The first 5 or 6 people I was talking about time on Bowling Road.
You've got to understand. He's a bully. Well, what happens though, if you don't have, if you don't stay true to the rules, how
This
it's
damn
run.
galley, you think this is big enough?
I was gonna get one bigger.
What the hell is that?
We use a little one during our meetings. All right, you got to get out of here.
I'm like, when he came out with that, I'm like, are you kidding me? You break a table with it.
Need a nice big rubber one, maybe?
Something, gee.
But,
It
you
was
know,
nice to meet you.
It was nice meeting you. Take care now. Bye-bye. Hey, you did a good job last night with the last meeting. Yeah, because you had a tough crowd. This was much more civilized than last time.
The same thing. Go look at that map. Let's just talk about whatever it is, who's been hearing, who knows what.
I know. What's it say?
It says Brian Boyer. We also have one for John Gilmore. Do you remember John Gilmore?
Yes.
He's been gone, I think, for 3 years now.
I know when they find that big one.
They have, like I said, they've been, they have been built every time. Something like that. They might even come out. They're doing, they might even come out and do it like so I'll text you them.
Winter plowing.
I may be short.
I don't want to. Get another recommendation.
Yeah, that's big like
All Jim was saying, he was also his, trying to focus
We're going back into session. You can leave or you can stay for the school CIP, whatever. We're going to have just a little more discussion with Mr. Cheney and to set up a site walk, etc.
Do you guys have email addresses so we can keep in touch with you?
Just land use. Like, keep in touch with
Oh, so
Ashley.
you don't have individual,
No.
we can't talk to you personally?
Nope.
He'll come to me and I'll forward everything.
She'll forward everything to us.
Okay.
Bruce,
All right, let me see if I can.
For time date. Continue this. How far up do you know?
Do you want to do a site walk?
I think we should, yeah.
Do you want to do it this fall?
Yeah.
First of all, you got to come to an agreement with the applicant on when they and their engineer can be there with the plan. And then it has to be a public meeting, it's open. I don't know if you would do it on a Saturday.
We've done it once.
Or if you're gonna do it after work on a weekday.
Not this time of year.
We've got to do it before the time changes.
Yeah.
9:30 Saturdays was always good. That's when you were out of
Did you get all the information you needed?
Yeah, thank you all in the public for your comments. I know it's hard to imagine that we appreciate this, but we do, and we listen back on these meetings, the recordings, and we listen to your comments, and we take them into consideration as we move forward with designing these plans. I do understand that this is in your backyards, and I also, just for a point of reference, want to say that we all go to work every day, and we know that there are people who do our jobs that do it well, and there are people that are in our careers that do it poorly, and I'm very sorry that you had a bad experience in that area, and that you have water runoff, and that you have flooding, and that has put a bad taste in your mouth for development. We are here trying to do a quality job and a quality development, and I do understand when someone does a bad job, it's hard to move past from that, and we hope that we can work with you to get there. I do want to give you Walter's personal cell phone number publicly in this meeting. It'll go into the minutes.
You out of your mind.
I know it. If you guys have concerns and questions that you want to talk directly with him about, his cell phone number is 603-216-7721, and that'll make it into the minutes, so you'll have that in writing. We want to work with the neighborhood. We want this to be a good development for the neighborhood. We understand that you guys know this best because you live here. We've walked this land 100 times. I took my 1-year-old twins out there a couple days ago to walk it. We really enjoy this piece of land, and we want to do something that's good here. We do think that condensing the development is good for this land, and that's why we're here before you with this plan. We need further guidance. We heard lots of comments about concerns about the view, and we hear that. I heard concerns about traffic, and I hear that. This parcel's 50 acres, and to put 18 lots on it is not a stretch. To have 36 units here is not a stretch for 50 acres of land. And whether it's condensed or it's sprawled out and takes up the whole land, those concerns are going to take place. So we want to work with you and understand what concerns we can remediate and what concerns are because this is your backyard and you're scared, and we understand that. We deal with that every day. We would love more.
Not scared, we live there.
Yeah, I understand. I have a home too, and I totally understand.
Sir.
Sorry.
So, if you wanna call Walt and talk to him about those things, he's happy to field those calls. I don't know what further guidance we can get from the planning board. I don't know if it's a good idea to continue this, and get further guidance, if this is a direction that we can go in or not. So I'll leave that up to the planning board. Walter did wanna say a few words before we closed out.
Clearly, this is not the first time I've done this. I've been doing it for 60-some odd years. And my reputation does speak well for me. I was amazed to hear all the good words tonight. And, but a number of you have heard me talk about a place called Moody Point that we did in Newmarket. And it's like I'm reliving my life because this property on the lake has a lot of similar problems that we had in Newmarket. And when we started it, and we're looking at a value out here in the $400,000 to $500,000 per unit, and so it certainly isn't going to be low cost. And we're looking to do the elderly because that is the market. There's a handout that I'll see that you get tonight that in New Hampshire, in the next 10 to 15 years, half the population of New Hampshire will be over 65. And so the elderly is the market. And we're putting elevators in these units because so they'll be designed in for the elderly. And it's going to be an expensive situation to do it the way we want to do it, but that's our vision. And we're going to have an onslaught of elderly that can afford this. I understand that a lot of people here tonight don't think we can afford it. I heard the same thing over 35 years ago in Newmarket when I was started to build $500,000, $100,000 condos that we couldn't imagine in Newmarket. No more can you probably sit there tonight and envision that I'm saying the same to you that I'm going to do here in Milton. But I have done it, and I make it work, and it's in the design. If you design, this project in Newmarket today produces $1.2 million in tax revenue, and in the 35 years has never had one school child in the Newmarket school system. Not one, okay? And there's no restrictions on the property, and if we cannot have restrictions on the property, I think it would be a better project because then it would allow the millennials to do there because it would be the same design. We would be happy to have a restriction of 2 bedrooms and have it limited to like that with the elevator. And if that would not be child conducive for anyone to be there with a child. And same thing happened at Moody Point. We designed them so that they were desirable for the elderly and they want the view. The only thing we're selling here is the view. We're not promoting the use of the lake. We see that the view is the number one thing. When I did Moody Point, I went and got all the waterfront. I had a mile of waterfront. I had, I don't know, 50 boat slips that I could have. I went and got permitted for all that. In the 35 years, we have not one motorboat at Moody Point. Not one, okay? They all have kayaks and canoes that they don't use. So what they do want is the view. So the view is the key to the success of this project. And you would have to approve this project, would have to give us a waiver. If you make the decision that it needs to be restricted to the over the age 55, we would accept that. It just makes the project more difficult to go forward with the banks and so on and so forth. We can more assure that we could do the best job for us if it was not restricted. But that's a planning board decision that you would have to make. I can guarantee the best of my ability that we will not have school children in there because it's just not conducive to where they want to live. But I've lived it, so I feel it. I feel it in my whole body, and so that's what I believe in. And so now the most important thing that I heard here all tonight is that know that they can't take their cars and park them down on the waterfront. And we can control that. we can make it part of the condominium documents that no one that lives in our project can take their road cars down and park them at any of the access properties. We can control them. And the one thing you find that, I don't know anyone that lives in condominiums, but one thing you find is people love to get on the board of the condominiums and take the power and take the control, and then they run their own little empire. And so all my condominium projects, and I've done hundreds of them, okay, we find that the board really controls the people, and then their neighbors, but they like that control. So if we put the rules and regulations in, we believe they can be enforced and followed out. So the most important thing, like I said, is I really believe we don't want the cars down there, okay? I don't want them down there. I don't even want them to use it, okay? But I think we have to have some access to it, at least available. But that's not what we're promoting. What we're promoting is the view. And if we can keep the view with the height and get the view, then I think we can give you a product that will give a huge tax benefit to the town and be an asset. And that's our hope and our goal, so.
Thank you. Public hearing's closed. Now, we need to set continuation. Would the planning board be interested in doing a site walk on this?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we need to set something up, and most likely it'd have to be for Saturday, because time change is coming, and it isn't gonna work for after work. So do you want to get an idea of what's good?
Tell us what works for you, we'll be there.
Bruce?
Well, my only suggestion would be that Norway Plains mark out somehow, either with pins or with flagging or something, the outline of where the road's coming in, the curb cut, where the buildings are gonna be and where the parking areas are gonna be.
Yeah, so we probably need about 4 weeks to line that up, if that's possible.
Yeah.
If it's not possible, I could try and get that expedited. What dates would be?
Go get your calendar out, October.
I don't think we're talking about a survey though, Paul.
Yeah.
Just staking the center line of the road and the edges of the buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can, would you want this sooner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sooner than later, yeah.
Yeah, we could probably accommodate within 2 weeks.
Well, we got 2 weeks. Huh?
October 5th?
October 5th?
Not for me.
Not for you?
October 12th.
12?
October 12th?
Does October 12th work for the board?
That's the long weekend. Is that okay?
That's cool.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Larry?
Oh, yeah. The town planner has given me permission to ask a question. If I wanted to give someone a sense of the shape of this building, this flat land, I would put a stake in that corner, stake in that corner, and I would run surveyor's tape between the stakes. For me, that would give me the best sense of where the volume of the building would be. If the surveyor's tape is cheap enough, go for it.
Okay.
So all those in favor? October 12th, 9 o'clock?
October 12th, 9 o'clock.
We'll continue the public hearing till then?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're gonna send out where we meet and everything else, or just at the beginning? Or what?
We'll have meetings before that. We'll
Okay.
probably just meet at the site.
Okay.
Northeast Pond Road.
There's a-
Mackenzie's and Convoy.
Huh?
Mackenzie's and Convoy. Mackenzie's parking lot and Convoy.
There
Okay.
is a pull-off, if you
Yeah.
go down to Bowling Road and you can pull up onto our land.
Yeah.
We could probably fit 7 or 8 cars there. It would be a tight squeeze.
You mean you're gonna have a parking attendant?
No, not yet.
Come on.
I can get one of the 1-year-olds out there and they can do it for you.
Give them class.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll see you then.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Larry?
One more thing while you were here. Several years ago, I was chair of the Conservation Commission when Steve Canish came on board. And for the record, I just wanted to say I have always appreciated the clarity and breadth of his knowledge while on the Conservation Commission. And I appreciate the orderly clarity of his assessment this evening. And it is not necessary to agree with all his points to respect that.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, capital improvements program project submittals and discussion, school board discussion, submissions, CIP submissions, and ratings and rankings.
Oh, that's their file.
Can't miss it. We're almost like good driving together.
Oh, thank you very much.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they're in the folder, I think.
Oh, they could be.
Yeah.
They could have been. So it may be a duplicate. You think?
I'll continue.
You mean there's gonna be twice as many people as old as me? That ain't good.
Thanks, sir.
You must be the baby on the inside.
I am. So give it away.
Newborn.
We'll give it away. Like reality.
Yeah, this is not next week.
I know, you're
Well, I'm
amazing.
ready for that one too. Well, you're not, right.
We have a very important meeting.
Okay, have at it.
My name is Doug Shute. I'm a member of the Milton School Board. I am here to do the same thing that the town has done. The school has several projects that need to be done, the big ones and little ones. And they meet, some of them are gonna be above the 10,000 mark. We're having a criteria, and we're here to get them on the CIP. Not, some of these we have not, we have listed. We went to Bruce and he had came in and talked to us. We made up the proper paperwork and submitted it. We do have a group of projects that we do have before you now. We do have others that we'll be bringing in probably next year after we do the preliminary jobs. And the person you probably want to talk to is Bob is the head one. And I'll introduce, then Earl Sussman, the superintendent. I'll let them talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug.
And we should say we have two more folks on the school board here. Please stand up. And we have our BA here.
Stand up.
Why
Oh, you are
don't
standing.
say hello, tell them who you all are.
My name is Melissa Brown, and I'm here with my two children.
We can introduce them at this point of the night. We've introduced everybody else.
They do need to go home and go to bed since.
Okay, okay. And?
Nathan Castle, Business Administrator.
And?
Oh, Meg Hurd, I'm sorry, in case anybody didn't know.
Okay, and we have the inimitable right here.
Bob Adams, I'm Facilities Director.
You all know Bob, he's been here for many years.
So you have opportunity to look over some of our work. I can go through it in priorities for you. A while back, we found out that 2 fire alarm systems are no longer being supported by the manufacturer. Siemens has gone out of the fire alarm business. The Faraday products that they built and supported for years are no longer being serviced. So the only thing available on the market is whatever distributors would end up having. So we need to go forward, and we've scheduled doing an engineering analysis of the 2 buildings to actually come up with a proposal that we'd be able to go out to bid for. So the cost of the $50,000 for the engineering service is an estimate at this time. and we're working on getting that tuned up for you. At the Milton Elementary School, the second engineering project that we need to work on is for the air handler. The first floor air handler is no longer being service parts unavailable. It's in a very small location in the hallway of the school. And that air handler is very noisy now. It's beyond repair. But at this time of the year, we're fortunate that we can open the windows and get air onto the first floor. We do that in the spring, and during the winter time when we're trying to heat, we end up running the air handler a little bit during the day to flush air. But other than that, we would open the windows too if we need to get some fresh air into the rooms. So we did work with Harriman, and they come up with a proposal to give us a design for an air handler that would do two things for us. The largest part of the project would be implemented to have an air handler that can service the first floor as well as the second floor, but we're able to divide it into two projects. So that's representative. I believe Bruce, right, you had broken that out there in the spreadsheet. So we can do a 2-year plan on that, a 2-year construction plan on that. Next, after that, we asked the voters this past year, we wanted to buy a pickup truck. We have since decommissioned and scrapped the pickup truck, and we're fortunate enough to get a very old pickup truck from the town that they were gonna let go of, and hopefully that gets us through the winter. So we have in the plan then to replace the pickup truck, so that'd be a warrant article for the spring as well. Well, we had talked about for vehicles, because you'll see beyond that one more vehicle, which is a 1-ton dump truck that we have a sander on with a plow and a safety package, and at some point in time we'll need to schedule replacing that. So we were looking at starting a warrant article this spring, presented to voters to put aside perhaps like $10,000 a year into that on a revolving capital reserve for maintenance equipment. And then that way there we'd have an easier, it would be an easier path to replacing the 1 ton at a future date.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Comment?
Yep. Yeah.
I went to Pat Smith on these two vehicles, and this is what he recommended that we do over a 10-year period. Replace these vehicles every 10 years, but do it at a 5-month increment. The 1 ton is 10 years old, so that's done its lifespan. And that's why we want to replace the pickup truck now, because we need that now. Because we've been told by Pat, graciously lent us that truck, but he told us not to go too far with it, because the lifespan is not very good on it. So if we lose that truck, we're gonna have to go out to contractors. We have priced contractors to do this job, to do our plowing. It is not cost effective. Right now, we have a default budget, the town does too. We do not have the money to go out and hire contractors if that truck goes down to plow.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, Bruce.
I have a question about this purchase of the 1-ton dump. Your submission says that you wanted to buy it in 2026.
The dates aren't right now. We're gonna have to adjust all the dates.
When are you gonna do that?
This is why we're here, to get the process done right. That's why
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking you, because the spreadsheet in your submission sheet says 2026, and I think it says $50,000 in 2026, which falls just off of the CIP planning.
Bruce, you have an advantage over us. You're good at this, okay? We're not. We're just
Well, I
coming in
can't
and
be
we
good
need
at it
help.
if I don't get all the facts so that I can
Okay.
get it onto a spreadsheet for the planning board. So right now, the planning board is looking at a spreadsheet that says 2026 purchase 1-ton dump with plow and sander, and the 50,000 is off the spreadsheet because it's in 2026. Are you saying that you want to put $10,000 away starting in this upcoming capital year of 2020?
Correct.
Until you get to 50 and then purchase it?
Yes.
So that means, I'm fact finding, Doug.
Well, we need your help, and that's why we're here.
That means you're gonna buy it in,
Well, that's what the board agreed on.
you're gonna buy it in 2024.
That could be correct, yeah. That's one time.
That's putting 10,000 away for,
And
5
then-
years.
And then we're able to get the other pickup truck this spring, that'll be done 10 years out,
Okay,
all right?
thank you.
We need your help, Bruce. We don't know, we're learning.
Okay.
So as we collaborate, why don't we, based on Bruce's input, why don't we make that change now?
Yeah.
So everybody can be on board.
If I can do it, the rest of you will have it easy. So I'm looking at the yellow line for 2020, and I go down to the bottom where it presently says 2026 purchase 1-ton dump truck with plow and sander, and I should be entering $10,000 in that line. Yes, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay, same thing for 2021, for 2022, 2023, and then in 2024, it will be paid up and purchased, correct?
Yeah, you need to add the 10K into the 2024 line as well.
I have 10K in 2024 as well.
Right.
If that's the purchase price, that's saving enough into the capital reserve fund. So I've changed all that, and I'll revise your spreadsheet.
Okay.
I
So we're also
apologize.
changing the plow pickup too, right?
No, I don't think so.
If we wanna replace it.
Yeah.
Oh,
What do
sorry.
we wanna do?
Currently, you see that your spreadsheet says,
Why is this?
purchase the pickup with plow in 2021 and ask for the $40,000 in 2021. If that's not what they're wanting, we need to figure out what it is.
Well, that's for that, but the replacement for that one, if it's a 10-year replacement, is presumably, well, it would be more than 4,000, but it'd be 4,000 in 22, 23.
My
24.
recommendation would be to put $5,000 away, starting in 2022,
Yeah.
and do it for 10 years.
But we're gonna,
Yeah.
excuse me, we're gonna do it all in that one, with both those vehicles. We're gonna start
Right.
a capital reserve fund for maintenance vehicles, and then we're gonna put the $10,000 in, and it'll cover those two vehicles over a 10-year span.
So you'd wanna, yeah, if you did it that way, then you'd extend it to be 10,000 beyond 2024 as well.
It's then
Yeah, to
20
keep on
well,
doing
thank you.
10.
2025 also has a 10K in it, because
you
it's going
combine
to be
it.
ongoing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And do I remember, I think I was at a school board, a meeting when you were talking about the pickup with the plow, and that's the conversation you had with Pat regarding, you just go to the state contract bid price and find the local dealer and you just do plug and play?
Correct.
Yep, okay. So next year, there will be the 150 for the alarm system, 40 for the pickup, and 10,000 in 2021 added for the 1-ton truck with the plow and sander.
Not the 150. We haven't got that figure yet. We're gonna do the engineering designs.
Okay,
What was, yes, an
so
estimate.
that,
Yeah.
is still out.
I have to come back to you on the final cost on those two projects. The air handler and the fire alarm.
So you're looking at $85,000 total for 2020? 50, 25, and 10?
Yep.
Okay, I can do that.
We haven't got
No.
the true estimate on that. That's why you gotta do the engineering design for, to get those figures. Those are only rough estimates.
So that's all we need in the planning years.
Yeah, that's
Right.
all they are.
Yeah, that's the engineering money, 75,000 is the engineering money in 2020.
Yeah, you're right, we gotta do two engineering studies. Air handler and the fire alarm.
What do you guys have to plow the schools? How many areas?
Oh, yes, several parking lots and then the interconnect.
So it's separate because it used to be the two towns combined, so you guys had your own plowing, because neither town supported that, correct?
Right, the town doesn't have the capacity to be able to do it, because they would basically be plowing at the same time that we would to clear. They're out on the road.
Mr. Chair.
Who cancels school on a snow day? Is it Pat or is it the school superintendent?
Just what?
Who cancels school on a snow day?
The
Because
superintendent.
it's different in the city of Rochester, it's the, public works director decides if they're gonna have school or not. So I was just asking, just curious how it
That's
all
a very
works.
good question. No, you're asking very good things, because it would make sense if we could have that coordination where one crew would do the whole thing. I think you're right on board.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I forget what, you gave was it at the annual meeting? The ballet of how parking lot A has to be cleared first, so the cars from B can go to A, so you can clear B, so that C can move to B, so you can go back and get C.
Right.
And contracting that out was pure heck.
It would be, because it ends up being an interesting space. Two schools are side by each, and you have the early arrivals, which are each of the two kitchens. So you have to get those opened up. High school opens first, so all of the high school's got to be cleared, followed by the elementary school. And then when you're treating, depending on if you're treating hot top or sand, gravel parking lots, then you have the sequence embedded in each of those locations too, because you'll be treating with a mix of rock salt on all your pavement, and then you need to follow with sand on your parking lot. So it ends up being quite an orchestration to get all those elements done in order to get both buildings opened up.
Have you guys looked at possibility instead of using a plow truck, because the schools are side by each,
A what?
using a more heavier piece of equipment, maybe a little more, but you get a lot longer longevity out of it, possible,
Like what?
some sort of bucket loader or tractor, something like that.
Oh.
I don't know, I mean, just looking at the combination.
Part of the dilemma ends up being traction in some of the places, because one of the parking lots has actually got a pretty good slope to it as well. And we've tried that with the loader when we need to try even move a little bit of snow, and it's pretty hard to do to try and get traction on those. So it's a mixed area. If we've had an equipment failure and we need to get a parking lot opened up, sometimes the town can swing in and open a parking lot up, and it helps with the wing plow, but that's pretty rare that they would be able to do it. So there are opportunities when that can really help, especially when you get a lot of drifting.
Right.
Yeah. I basically follow the process, learned a lot from Pat Smith, the road agent, and he's the one that's really helped us with specifying the equipment that we do use.
Any more questions from the board?
Well, I think we gotta go back to the fire alarm, because if the fire alarm goes down, okay, you can't put the kids in the building. I think that was number one for us to do that engineering study. And then, two is to take care of that handle out, because if we lose the air handler, we're gonna be in the same situation. So we do have big ticket items coming down the road and small items. We need the criteria within, we need to be on the CIP and plan for the future. Bob is the best one to talk to about each individual project. He can tell you the intricacies of each project. I just want them in the minutes, and I want the people to know when they go down, that they've been told. And I wanna face these projects over as much as I can over a long period of time, and out of it, no spikes. I've read your law, 674, and every material I could get on it, read the law on a CIP, and why it works and what needs to be done, and I've read it several times. That's my goal. I don't want, I have to live in town, pay taxes too, and I don't want to see these spikes. I want to plan for the future. We do have issues. And we have done the study, we have, 3 studies, Peg? On doing the contracting out plowing, and it just didn't work out. We weren't saving any money. It was costing us more money than what we were doing now. We had to get our own equipment, saved us a lot of money. If you want those figures, I can dig them up and give them to you. Peg was involved in that, the estimates. And Bob is right. Pat is too busy to help us.
You know, just for us coming, as you guys are learning this process, some of us are also trying to understand why, as a town, as a municipality, we'd have different organizations with the same equipment.
Mhm.
From a standout, from a step back perspective, we have to try to figure out why it makes sense.
Right.
That's all.
Question
So
for
you're
you.
learning, we're learning.
Yeah, and Pat's crew is the one that responds that gets me out of the bankings when I'm plowing too.
Yep.
So we always ride with chains, and I'm giving him a haul that he yank me out because there's no one else around. All the roads are being plowed.
Yep.
Any more from the board?
We wanna work with you as much as we can. I have to admit, I really don't know how to CIP work other than what I've read. Okay, so we do need help. We met with Bruce a couple of times. Okay, we gotta get this done, because if you're gonna charge impact fees, this has gotta be done.
Yep.
Okay, and that's why I'm concerned. I wanna get this project done and going.
As we all are. We've been at it now for how many years now, Bruce? 3, 4? 4 years. It still hasn't sunk into all of us. Thank you.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much. I know it's been a long night.
Oh, you have no idea.
Thank you for your patience.
Come last minute.
Thank you for
I was on it.
No, I'm ready for the next one. Robert, you still got tomatoes?
Right?
You still
Oh,
got
he
your tomatoes?
does, and they're very good. I got an assorted group.
So, what do you want us to do next?
Bruce will put this all together.
Could he call, if he needs any information, call Bob,
Thank you.
and,
Yeah.
he'll be the one, Adams to talk to. But let me just give you a heads up, we got other projects coming up. We gotta do a culvert in the end.
Like Orton.
Okay, we gotta renovate the Dayton House, not now, the future. And we should need to do some paving. So these are the ones we thought we were gonna bring in the 17th. We're not even prepared to bring that figure into you now.
Yeah.
Because we have legwork that we've gotta do. Thank you very
Priorities.
much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So you wanna join the planning board, Bob?
After tonight.
Glad you moved, aren't you? Where are we here?
We are neatly tying the CIP work tonight up neatly with a bow. And if you give me the floor,
It's yours.
I'll try to do that. Number one, before you, is a revised large spreadsheet. It's two pages. It's an 11 by 17 sheet.
I think you, I can read it.
Since the last time you saw this, back in July, I've added several projects that have come in, including the 7 projects that we kind of revised tonight from the school district. So those 7 have been added. I also added the library's project for putting the shakes and the copper sheeting on the mansard roof. And you can see that that's slated for 2020 and 2021 for $25,000 a year. I've also added the Recreation Department's beach restoration project, which is their #1 priority that we didn't have before, putting $3,000 a year away from 2020 through 2025 for a total of $18,000. That's been added. I also added the Dawson and Silver project, but as you can see, there's no money in there. The reason for that is simple. Pat has already saved out of the road reconstruction money, the road construction money, up at the top of the DPW list, of $250,000 this year, which is not what we're considering. And he's not sure what he's gonna do next year, so I can't put a dollar amount in there. If you were to pay for the whole project, it would be somewhere north of $800,000 in 2020 if you were to move forward with that project. We still have an opportunity to resubmit for a grant next year because we didn't meet their criteria and the system kicked us out this year. He did say in his submission sheet that there was the possible use of unexpended fund balance. That's not gonna happen this year for any projects.
Nope.
So the second thing that he said was that it's a possible bond issue. Well, I don't think the Board of Selectmen is gonna move forward with any bond issue, and so that's why there's no money put in that column for the Dawson and Silver project, because if Pat does move forward with it in 2020, the only thing he would do is save out a certain amount from the road construction project, which includes a highway block grant from the state. So that's all I have to say about that one. Then there is one more project near and dear to Bob's heart, and that's the Bowling Road reconstruction. Now, all I've got to say to you is that I don't know if you have these, but there's 2 sheets for these. One of them is to cut trees and stumps, box cut right of way approximately 30 feet width, install drainage where needed, replace unsuitable materials with 8 inches of 6-inch bank run, 8 inches of 3/4 crush, and pave 2,725 feet of road. The cost for that is eventually gonna be somewhere north of $300,000. And Pat is suggesting that he start putting $50,000 a year away in 2025, which is the last planning year of your capital improvements program. Right now, he's saying this would be probably warrant articles. But the second sheet does all of Bowling Road. So there's 7,125 feet of Bowling Road, and that one is gonna cost somewhere around, in today's dollars, $755,000. He's suggesting that we put in our capital improvement program in the last planning year, $125,875 for about 6 years to get to that amount. I chose the smaller one, but it's up to the planning board to tell me which one you want me to put in there. Because I don't get any recommendations from either the DPW director or the Board of Selectmen on this one. So, I don't know what, I did what I did in your spreadsheet. I did give them that, both of you?
So Bowling, it's a public
I
road?
can, I'll give you.
Bowling Road, yeah.
It's a trail.
Well, the lower half of it is.
Yeah, the lower half of the Yeah, the part where I turned around.
Yeah.
So I just want to finish here because, first of all, I want to tell you that it's too late to start rating projects tonight.
Yeah, I
That's just the
agree
way
with
it is. If the planning board would consider us another meeting outside of their regular 2, we may need it.
Not next week, right, Bob?
What I'm gonna say is that I also
But that's the
updated
only
the
thing we do.
master plan tie-in sheet, and that's before you, that's 2 sheets, I added all those projects to it.
Yep.
And I bolded out the projects that you are to rate and rank. Except they did make a mistake on a couple of them. Let's see, under fire on the second sheet, I bolded 2020 replacement of car 1. Cross that out. That is not one we will rank because you ranked it the previous years. And the same thing for the police cruiser lease, cars 3, 4, and 5. That shouldn't be bolded. I'm not perfect, I'm sorry, I try to do things too fast sometimes. So, when you count those all up, there's 25 project submissions for the board to rate and rank. The final thing that I want to say before you have any discussion on this, if at all, is that this year, I've been told that there will be no warrant articles that say no money to be raised for taxes from these capital improvement program projects. It's gotta come out of the tax levy. What does that mean for the planning board? It means that this year more than ever, it's more important for the board to decide on a total number that the voters will probably be amenable to. Use that as your final total number. After you rate and then rank the projects, look at the cost of each project, and you're gonna recommend the ones with urgent need that you've rated and ranked. Total that number up until you get to that magic total, and that should be your recommendation for the capital improvement program for 2020 through 2025. That's it. If you don't do it this year, I don't think people will. They're not going to take your capital improvement program very seriously, because that means that you are recommending things that are just not feasible to do year on year for the average taxpayer. So there's 2 things to do: rate and rank 25 projects that have been submitted to you, and then second, come up with a magic number. Is it 300? Is it 400? Whatever. It will become part of your recommendation report. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. We've been tapping that money every year, taking from the fund balance. And we're always told it does not affect the tax rate. Had that money been turned back in to be used against the taxes, yes, it does affect the tax rate. You figure 4 years is $1 million. What would that do to your tax bill? Had to come to an end, so the selectmen have called the quits on it. The new town administration, you can't keep taking that. So we're gonna pick a number. I don't think it's gonna be $516,000 either.
Is that what this totals up to?
That's this year's, well, it's just part of it, yeah. Okay, that's your comments, Bruce?
That's it. I do have one other comment. I'm sorry, I apologize to everybody. We at the Economic Development Committee meeting, and a couple of them were supposed to be here tonight, but they probably ran away. They were scared or something. They're talking about being serious in asking the board, maybe not necessarily this year because we're almost to October, but starting probably early in 2021 with your new work plan, to begin working on a complete rewrite of all chapters of the master plan that have not been recently done. The natural resources chapter has been done. You did amend the land use and economic development chapter recently, but it really, all of those other chapters, the master plan is this thick, all the other, this is the natural resource, this is all the rest of the chapters. All you gotta do is take a look, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're not very good. The Economic Development Committee is interested in land use and economic development, but really they're also interested in doing a complete rewrite. What I'm suggesting that the board think about for the next meeting or two, so that we can get to our work plan here at the end of the year, is creating a master plan steering committee, which would be made up of planning board members, maybe a board of select member, citizens that are interested, and members of other boards and commissions, and other stakeholders who would steer the process to get to this new master plan. The process, as you know, has several components. One of the components would be a survey for the citizens. Another component would be public outreach meetings like Speak Out Milton, and possibly at other venues than here, so that people feel more free to say what they really feel. Although I don't think that they held back.
No, not at all.
And the third one is the brainstorming sessions that would have to happen after you bring in those public outreach and survey results to get to your bullet statements that become part of your master plan chapter. So it's a process that has taken me in other communities up to 3 years, and that's the nature of the beast. The committee has to be created first. I think that would be the first step. A second step would be to request that the town administrator put a warrant article, possibly in this year, might be a little late for next year, to raise some money for the effort. The effort would necessarily have to take into account maybe some consultant monies to SRPC or a firm, and monies to do that survey. Outreach is minimal, if any, and we just have to keep slogging on this. So it's something to consider. I'm really asking you to consider this as a major part of next year's work program, and when I say that, that means that a lot of others wouldn't be able to be done. So, that's it. Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry.
But, yeah, a question, and that is, where does the statutory authority for the master plan rest?
With the planning board.
What size pot do you need to be able to put 2 spoons in it?
I don't understand that question.
He's the only one that does. What's the answer?
How big are the spoons?
And the next question is, does the tail wag the dog, or the dog wag the tail?
Both.
And I'm just concerned that a cooperative relationship might be a sense that it is an obligation to which we are subservient.
In what context?
I don't know. Whether the Economic Development Committee, which is appointed by the selectmen rather than elected, whether it has equal interest. Does it have equal authority?
No. Absolutely not.
Same as the Conservation Commission.
Right.
They're appointed by the selectmen.
And they've done draft chapters of the master plan, and you've taken them and you've not kept them in the presented draft form. And I wouldn't expect that to happen. I'm not suggesting that anyone other than duly authorized prepare or write a master plan chapter after gathering all the data and then finding out where the chips fall on the whiteboard. Because the planning board has the ultimate authority to say, yes, that's perfect, no, it's perfect, we don't want any of it, or gee, that's almost perfect and we'll revise it. That's all there is to that. I'm also not suggesting that Stratford Regional Planning Commission prepare or write any of our master plans, because well-meaning as they are, they do tend to use cookie cutter stuff that's used in other communities that may not necessarily fit Milton. So I'm suggesting that we use them for other tasking, such as surveys and data collection, that's all.
Okay.
I was trying to catch the tops of your comments.
Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes of September 3rd. It's up to you guys, I was not here.
Second.
Discussion? Not hearing any, all those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain, all those in opposed?
Oh, I don't know if was I part of that?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, in that case, aye. I never know what my name is.
Who's gonna do number 8?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Second.
I know who's in favor.
Boy, you